The following podcast is a Lady K Enterprises production.
Lady K.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to Lady K Chat, a podcast that is designed for all women to become better versions of themselves, which is broadcast every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Various subjects will be speaked upon, such as relationships, personal development, health and wellness, wealth building, children, and so much more. She is a two-time Amazon best-selling author, an international speaker, and life coach. She is Kalima, aka Lady K. And now for your host, Lady K.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in into this episode of Who Are You? And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, as I continue, we're all on this journey of the 2020 election. It is very crucial. It's so important. And I hope you guys are really paying attention to what's going on. So I know a lot of times we always wonder where these candidates come from. And it's like, who are you? So tonight, I'm so blessed to have this person on. He has an extensive background in this, in this industry, and I'm with pleasure. I'm so excited to have Miss Christa Caceres. How are you, Christa?
Good evening, Kalima. I'm doing so well, ma'am. How are you?
I am great, Christa. I just want to thank you so much for this invitation and, for what I'm working on. I know you are the lady that I can go to and pick her brain and you can give us answers.
You are far too kind, Queen. The honor is mine to be here with you this evening, and I'm just ready to answer whatever questions you have.
Thank you. So like I said, Christa, the name of this episode is called Who Are You? And again, a lot of time Americans, our mind is boggled because when people start running for positions, we be like, who are you? Where you come from? And it's like, oh my God. So I'm just going to dab right in. My first question to you is, are there certain qualifications that on a state and local level that they look for when a person is running to be a candidate to be an official?
Yes, that's actually correct. But the qualifications really depend upon what position that you're going for.
Okay.
So, for instance, from a state perspective, if you're talking about becoming a state senator or a state representative, and those positions would typically be, the job location would typically be your state capital, where you would travel to and from to legislate on behalf of your district. I can only speak as far as Pennsylvania. I know every state is different, so I would encourage people who may be interested in running for office on either a local or a state level to visit their state's Secretary of State page, where they can find information about becoming a candidate and what the election rules are. And for local candidates, people that want to do things like school board or magistrate, or possibly like city council, things like that, they would want to reach out to their local board of elections. That's where they can get information on how to run for those types of positions.
So I have a question for you because you just startled me something, right? So like I said, a lot of times people want to, where these people come from, right? So once a person go through a certain process, do the Secretary of State website and the local board of election website, do they give you information about this running candidate?
They have basic information. So what their job is to essentially walk you through the process and also ensure that you have met the qualifications that the state requires. And those are more from a legal standpoint and from a, I guess, maybe administrative / paperwork standpoint.
Right.
So as far as the Secretary of State, let's just say, for instance, matter of fact, I'll start at the local level. So let's say we have someone, there are a lot of great moms out here with fantastic ideas, and same thing with, great dads that have fantastic ideas about, how they could make the school system work better for their community. They would want to contact the Board of Elections, and a typical process looks like this. There usually is a requirement that whatever school board you run for, you obviously should live in that district because you want to influence, the place in which you live.
Right.
So you have to typically live in the area that you're running for a certain amount of time. And then also you have to meet basic qualifications, like you have to circulate a petition, because what that indicates is that your community is behind you. You never want to run for office. And let me just back up and say this. The first thing you want to do before you do anything is to be sure that this is what you want to do.
Right.
It can be life changing, for the good or for the bad, depending upon, what your goals are and what your expectations are going in. You have to really give it a lot of thought. And you definitely want to consult your family. And the reason why I say that, Kalima, is because they are going to be your number one support system if it goes well or if it does not. And their lives are also impacted by your candidacy, which means that if you're normally around a lot, depending upon what position you're running for, you might not be around so much anymore because you're having to go out and, go to these different events and give talks and, meet different people and knock on doors and introduce yourself to the community. So those people, who normally would count on you to get things done, they are now going to have to pick up, some of the things that you would do in order to keep the household functioning properly. So communication is extremely important, especially between, a spouse or a significant other, your children. Make sure you're properly preparing them for this journey because it can get ugly. In politics, it's not always a friendly game. So again, depending upon, what you're running for, you can expect to get some type of negative press, whether it's true or not. So these are the things, I'm saying from a psychological standpoint and from a readiness standpoint, you really should, have all of that squared away. Right. Now back to your question. So for a school board person, I'll speak to what the requirements are on a local level here where we are in Pennsylvania. So first thing you want to do is you have to circulate a petition, and you're required to get 10 signatures of party members that support your candidacy. So for instance, if you're running as a Democrat, you are required to get 10 signatures from Democrats in your district who support your candidacy. And essentially they're just putting their name, address, where they live, and that they're, to indicate that they're within the district. Right. And then you turn those in. You also are typically required to file a statement of financial interest to ensure that somehow whatever position you're running for, you won't end up profiting off of. So they're going to want to know when you turn in this information to either the state or the Board of Elections, what are you tied up in? Do you owe money to, large amounts of money to any particular type of industry? Right. What do you do for a living? Is that somehow a conflict of interest for the position that you're in? So their job, again, is just to make sure that on a financial level, an ethical level, and, also a level of whether or not you're fit is, do you have any felonies? If you have a felony, you are barred many times for running for a particular office, especially state and above. And of course, even if you, let's say, for instance, if you ran for office and you have a lower level crime, right, that might have been expunged. I know that Pennsylvania is doing a lot of things through the Clean Slate Act to wipe away a lot of the lower level crimes because, we all make mistakes, right? We're all human. Absolutely. It doesn't preclude your opposition or someone that may be running for your slot to bring up your past, even if it's been kind of expunged. So these are the kind of things that you want to be mindful of when you're stepping out into the public eye in this way, right. Is that anything that you've ever done, no matter how big or small, your opponent can and likely will use it against you.
Right, exactly. And I'm happy you said that because that was going to be one of my questions to ask you. Is there a background check required? Because, we wonder, like, whoever's in front of that pulpit up there speaking to us, did they do a background on you?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Like you said, the curious stuff. Oh, you got a crime. We don't know. We want someone in office. But then at the same time, too, it's like you said, the person paid the crime. How hard are you going to keep making them, relive what they did in a past and right. What you're now qualified, because we all know that God qualifies you,
absolutely,
and to do the work that the people need, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a candidate that's going to speak for us, not for you.
Yes. However, I have to say, though, it's very interesting, and I learned this myself when I ran, and it was different, looking at it through the lens of a person who votes for someone, right? So before I ran, I was just a person who looked at the candidate and made my decision and voted. So right. When I actually became a candidate, I realized how much people judge. Right. It is unbelievable.
I can imagine. And that
Yes,
piece
but
right there, Krista, that you're giving, I'm going to have you talk a little bit more about that on part 2. So don't give too much away.
oh, okay. So we'll stop there. But I will say this. There is an expectation, rightfully so, though, but there is an expectation of, I don't want to say perfection, but I think that whenever you're running to represent a large group of people, you should have, even if you have a past, people expect you to have a level of dignity, I guess. Like you have to present yourself in a certain way. You have to exemplify leadership.
Right.
So I don't think it's perfection, even though we nitpick when it comes to candidates, right? And we'll save that for later, but we do tend to like get real nitpicky when it
That is
comes
so
to
true.
whether or not we're going to choose one person over another. So
Exactly.
it's tricky, but rightfully so, though. There really should be a high level of leadership that should be exemplified by a person who's stepping up to lead a large group of people. So I will say that.
Right. And you know what, Krista, hold that thought. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Lady K Enterprises are now licensed in the state of Pennsylvania and New York to help you with your insurance needs from auto, homeowner, life insurance, and home security. For additional information, please text the word insurance to 844-446-5374. Again, for additional information, please text the word insurance to 844-446-5374.
Hey everyone, welcome back and thank you for tuning in. Who are you? And I was just chopping up with Miss Krista and we're just enjoying this, like talking about, what it requires, to be a candidate. And I think the most important thing as I'm listening to Krista talk, I think the psychological part is really important. Like, are you truly prepared and are you really ready for this? Because like you said, people are going to analyze you. People are going to try to think of anything and all things about you. So I want to say to you, people that's going to vote, I want to say, keep that in mind. Yes, we want the person to represent us, especially in the House of Representatives. But keep in mind that maybe there is a slight chance that the person that is running, they do have a pass. They paid the price for their pass, and now they want to just gear right into the community. So, Krista, you said you agree with me on that?
I do. I mean, certainly it depends upon, what the past looks like.
Right. Absolutely.
So we don't want
just anybody.
Well, right. I mean, not to make light of it, but we certainly don't want someone who's robbed the bank to be like, treasurer of the,
Right. Exactly.
But that doesn't mean someone that maybe had a DUI or someone. I mean, again, I'm just kind of grabbing charges, but I'm just saying it doesn't mean that something that you've done should preclude you from public office is what I'm saying. But pick something that's appropriate, where your opponent can't really just, drag you through the mud.
Because you see that a lot, and sometimes it's like I understand because on one perspective they're trying to make themselves look good, but then I also think about it too, like, Dad, did you really have to throw dirt on his name like that, especially if it's half true? Like that right there is mind-boggling.
Yes, well, unfortunately, I've come to learn this, and I mean, we've always kind of known it, right? We see the commercials, we see the ads. Politics is a dirty game, and I think, the whole piece of it is a lot of times it is psychological warfare because what the other person is trying to do is by bringing you down, make themselves better, but that's everyday life, right?
Absolutely. You're right about that. You're absolutely right. Even times you try to do your best, it's like you get pushed back 10 times because it's like, dang, I can't even move forward without someone throwing my pass in my face.
Absolutely. So certainly, and that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. It's just that be really prepared. And here's the thing. If you have a past, I would certainly recommend no matter what it is. And I don't even care sometimes if it's been sealed or whatever. If it's going to come out, it should come out of your mouth first. The first thing you should do when you announce your candidacy, if you have a website and you have a statement or you do a Facebook Live or however you're first coming through, to the community, a press conference or whatever you choose to do, get it out there.
Right.
Tell it from your side. Don't let the opponent tell anything about you that you haven't already spoken on. Now, you can't stop them from talking about it, but what you can do is properly frame it for you and get the truth out.
Right.
So at least if they say something, right, you can already say, well, I've already addressed that, so there's really no scandal here.
Absolutely. And so now I kind of want to go back to the process. I know you was telling us stuff at the local and state level, how, you know, they're asking for you to submit, you know, financial, you know, what are you doing your day job? So once they do that, what's the next step?
So then after that, there's a specific time frame in which legally you're allowed to collect these petition signatures. And you're really not supposed to start ahead of that time, and you're not supposed to collect them after that time. So there's typically like a 4-week period. It's a very short time frame. And unfortunately, when petition time is usually in the winter time. So you could encounter a snowstorm. It could rain every day that you're supposed to be out there knocking on doors, collecting these signatures.
Wow.
Like, for instance, a school board person only needs 10, right? But when you're running for state representative, you need 300. And they even tell you to try to get double or triple that number, because your opponent or opponents can have someone challenge your signatures. In other words, if you don't meet that threshold of whatever it is, let's just even keep it on a basic level for a school board. Let's say you just need 10 signatures. So you say, okay, I got my 10 signatures. But then your opponent says, well, this name on your list, they signed my petition first. See down here, they were my signature number 3, and they're your signature number 7. So we need to bump them because they can't sign for 2 candidates. So what'll happen is, if you don't have enough and you don't meet that 10 threshold, then you can't get on the ballot. So that's why they always recommend you get double or triple the signatures if possible, just to avoid any of that happening, and to ensure you at least get on the ballot.
Right. I have a quick question for you, because you were talking about signatures, because we all know that technology is so advanced. If you are, let's say, for example, on a Facebook and you're running, right, and you're asking for your signatures, can they get your electronic signature by you doing it on a social media platform? Is that?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Nope.
So you have to have a physical signature.
Yes. You have to have a physical signature, and it's on petition paper that's given by the state. You download it from the state website, and it has all of your information, all of your candidate information, what county are the people that are signing this form. So you have to make sure, like, for instance, when I ran, my district included Monroe and Pike, so I had to have 2 separate petitions, one for Monroe, one for Pike, and not get them confused. And even inside, the development which I live, half of it's Monroe, half of it's Pike. So I had to make sure I was giving them the right clipboard to make sure that they were. It's just crazy, because any little thing, your opponent's gonna, comb through and pick it out to try to disqualify you before you even get started. So the petition signature is one of the hardest hurdles to overcome, especially if you're running on a state level. Even for Congress people, they have to get 1,000 signatures. So imagine trying to get 2,000 or 3,000, right? Because again, their district is so much larger. They're only asking for a small fraction of the population to demonstrate you have support to run for such an office. But it's very difficult, because again, you don't know. Most people don't know 1,000 people, so that means you're knocking on strangers' doors. You're basically going door to door. You have a list of whatever party you're in, those candidates, and you're going knocking on doors and introducing yourself and hoping that people will agree to go ahead and sign your petition.
Wow.
Now, after you successfully get your petition signed, then you want to submit your financial statement. You want to have that notarized. But on a state level, you also have to have a committee. I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I'll keep it, pretty generic, but you have to have a committee which consists of your political action committee name, which you have to get an EIN number for through the IRS. You have to have a chairperson. You also have to have a treasurer. Your treasurer is responsible for keeping track of any donations that you received. And if you receive donations from the general public, and it could be your family, it can be, it could be whomever, but there are dollar limit amounts that one person may be able to donate, and I won't get into all of that, but there are limits set in place, and quarterly, or whenever the state sets up these different dates, you have to file your campaign finance reports. If you receive donations over $250 on the state level, you are required to file these reports, and your treasurer has to be the one to submit these. Oh, it's real serious.
Right.
And they do all of these things to make sure that there's no funny business, that there's no undue influence from, let's say, one particular company or one particular, wealthy individual,
Right.
or, anything like that. So there are all these guidelines in place to make sure that, at least on the surface, they do what they can to make sure these races are ethical and that the candidate, is not, again, having any undue influence that may compromise them once they get the job, right? So like, I gave you all this money, now I need you to do X, Y, and Z. So once all of those things are met, then you get on the ballot. So then you're looking at there are 2 elections normally in a given year. You have your primary election, and then you have your general election. Your primary election is typically in the spring, and that election would be for any candidates within the same party that are running for one particular office. They are competing against each other for the right to be on the fall election, the November ballot, against the other side. So look at it like, the first time you're running, the first election is so you have the right to be on the big ballot at the end of the year. And that's your primary. So you can have, even for school board, for instance, I think the last election, there were like at least 25 different people of all party types running to qualify for, I think, 7 positions on the ballot for November. And then I think from that, they've selected 5. I might be off by numbers, but it's something like that. And unfortunately, some of the most difficult races that you'll run will be those primaries where you think, okay, well, I'm running against the person from my own side. They understand that we both want the same things. Sometimes that can be the ugliest, the ugliest ones of all, because, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be the one to move ahead.
And everybody wants power. And Christa, I love this. This is getting juicy, but I'm going to stop because we run out of time. But guys, I urge you to listen into part 2 because I'm going to allow her to go a little bit more deeper. But please continue to follow me on social media at Lady K Chat on all platforms, on Facebook and Instagram, and on my website at www.LadyKEnterprises.inc. And please tune in next for part 2. I thank you for listening, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Lady K.